Hey, what's happening, you guys? This week we're going to talk about lifting those heavy ass weights because that's really what we all enjoy, right? Just getting that new rep max. And this week I got a new 1 rep max on that legs up close grip bench that you're watching right now. I got a new 1 rep max on that little baby, and I also got a new 1 rep max on a high bar squat, and then some other rep maxes along the way. And I had a lot of fucking fun this week. But at the same time, I also did a ton of reps. I was doing high rep stuff on the regular. You'll see later in this video I'm doing 3 sets of 12 high bar squat without a belt. And it's pretty fucking difficult. Honestly, that final set of 12 felt harder than the 1 rep max I got just previous to that. And, you know, that kind of goes back into powerlifting a little bit, because I feel like there's this mentality that many powerlifters have, which is that you got to avoid higher reps, which is sort of silly. And when I see powerlifters doing, quote, high volume workouts, they're still doing a fairly low amount of reps per set. So most powerlifting, quote, high volume workouts are still sets of 5 or less. They just do a shitload of sets, which some people would think is a truly high volume workout. But, you know, if we're going to measure stress, we're going to be talking about time under tension. And if we're going to talk about doing high volume workout, time under tension is going to be drastically different than somebody doing 10 sets of 3 versus 3 sets of 10. Because if you're doing 10 sets of 3 and it's taking you an equal amount of time, chances are you're grinding through a fucking shitload of those reps. And you ain't going to be going nowhere fast. Whereas if you're doing 3 sets of 10 at a pretty decently heavy weight, that shit can take forever. This 315 by 12 on this final set took me like a fucking minute. That's a lot of time under the bar. And that time under load equals stress. And that is what's going to cause that adaptation, which is going to make you bigger. It's going to make you stronger. And so, if you're that powerlifter who says, like, I'm going to do a high volume training program, this or that, whatever. You know, there's a difference between doing a high volume powerlifting training program and doing a high volume bodybuilding training program. And I'm not saying you guys got to jump full depth into the bodybuilding world per se. I'm just saying you might want to look into doing more reps per set, work on that muscular endurance, work on that cardiovascular endurance. What? You can do that while lifting weights? Yes, you can. However, at the same time, the benefit of where you're coming from is that you still get to lift heavy ass weights. And that's enjoyable. But unfortunately, your ability to continue to lift heavy-ass weights is sort of dictated by your work capacity. And if that shit is in the basement, you ain't going to be in this game for very long. Because what's going to happen, and I've seen it happen many times before, is that guys get to a sticking point in their life, in their training life, and they think the thing that they could do is perhaps take more supplements, in the general sense of the word, the most general sense possible. They could try to improve their diet, they could try to improve their sleep, and all 3 of those things can certainly benefit your training. Even if we're talking about those special kind of doctor-prescribed supplements, that's going to blow your training plateau through the roof. But what you could do before all of that, and it costs nothing, it costs absolutely nothing. You barely even got to change what you do outside of the gym. All you got to do inside the gym is just work on your work capacity, work on your muscular endurance, your stamina, your conditioning. A bunch of other big name dudes have been talking about this, guys. It's sort of a big thing to pay attention to, and I think the biggest reason why I might be as successful as I am in powerlifting is because I came into this game being pretty damn well conditioned from being an infantryman in the Marine Corps. I mean, we did a shitload of stupid PT that would just break you off forever. And comparatively, lifting weights is relatively less taxing, significantly I should say, less taxing form of exercise. And, that just meant when I got into the gym and it was time to lift weights, I fucking lifted weights a lot. And the greater your work capacity, the more reps you can do, the more reps you can do, the more practice you get, the more technically sound you are, then that means you're less likely to injury, which means you get to practice more. And it's just like compounding interest, you guys. And it all starts with your work capacity. If you don't have a good work capacity, you're not going to be able to do the adequate amount of volume to truly practice your craft and get better at it. It's just going to take you a longer period of time. And what happens when it takes you like 4 years to break through a plateau? You're like stuck at 295 on the bench for 4 years. Most people probably blow their fucking brains out, honestly. Being stuck that close to 300 pounds for 4 years would fucking agonize me. But it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to get stuck at a plateau for a long period of time. You don't have to think that lifting heavy weights more heavier, if that's not proper English, I don't give a shit. But you don't got to focus on a single aspect of lifting weights to get better at it, you guys. You can kind of open your eyes and take a look at it from the broad spectrum and see like, okay, I got to lift heavier weights. There are a number of other ways to do this. We've heard that there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat when it comes to getting strong. Which one sounds the most fucking fun? And you identify that one sounds the most fun to you, and you just master it. And if that means you're doing 10 sets of 3, but you're only going to give yourself like 10 seconds of rest in between sets or some crazy nonsense, then so be it. If you're like, hey, I'm going to still limit my block of time into the gym to an hour and a half, rather than doing 7 exercises, I'm now going to do 8 or 9 exercises in that hour. Or maybe you're just going to be like, you know what, I'm going to step back away from the gym for a minute, recover a little bit from these nagging injuries that I got going on, but then I'm going to go attack it full bore. There are so many ways to get strong, and I'm just asking you to consider the one that is the easiest, the cheapest, and that is to simply do more inside the gym. Well, everyone, keep hitting me up with those questions, those comments. I read every single one of them. I'll try to answer them in the future videos. Thanks for your subscription. Thanks for watching.